Our podcast is supported by Lovehoney.
Now, Lovehoney are all about breaking down barriers. So who better to support me in breaking down the barriers in peach play? You know I'm a sucker for the bum play. Stay tuned because I'm going to a deep dive into anal play.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging.
Fuck parental guidance. This shit is MA 15+.
And it's with Maggie and Alex.
We're back.
We are back.
I hope everyone's had a great week.
We're back. You've just burped. It kind of like sounded like an ASMR sound.
I'm just very gassy at the moment.
Pregnancy.
Oh, it's a real joy.
Hashtag
I
pregnancy
love
and gassy.
ASMR. I like
Or like the
listening-
sounds.
Yeah, like I like listening to women eat noodles on ASMR. It's called mukbang. Like when women
eating noodles as a name?
No, it's just called mukbang if you type it in. And it's like women eating all sorts of like weird foods. And it's like lots of slurping and squelching and like
Oh, stop. No.
like that.
Nah. It's like, is it like a sexual thing or is it like a calming thing?
I think it's a calming thing. I sometimes get like stuck because you can look at mukbang ASMRs on TikTok or even Instagram as well. And I can get stuck deep in a hole of mukbang ASMR. So look at my sister as well, actually.
How long would you like watch mukbang for?
Oh, God, I've lost time. I have lost time.
What does it sound like again? Do it. Oh. Nah, that
Chewing and slurping and squelching and sucking.
Brad actually has a thing where like if I'm eating next to him, sometimes he'll look at me and be like, please don't do that.
Also, he like is disgusted by it. I think lots of people are disgusted by like the noises of like chewing.
I think like my husband being disgusted by me, like that's a very strong word. I don't want to say disgusted. I just feel like he wouldn't enjoy ASMR. And when I'm doing unintentional ASMR,
My
it's not
ex-girlfriend used to avoid going to food courts. She couldn't sit in a food court around people eating because she couldn't watch people eat and the sound of eating around her.
I think it's actually a thing.
And then there's me.
Yeah. Eat next
Well, I
to
mean,
my
I don't eat
ears.
like that, but I like the sound. Is that weird?
No. No.
Don't yuck my yum.
I'm not.
Don't
I'm
yuck
not.
my yum.
I'm not. All I'm saying is that is not my yum. Counselor chat, therapy chat.
We really like this chat, don't we?
We do, because it's interesting, and I feel like a lot of people would benefit.
Yeah, and I think there's probably lots of people that have considered going to therapy or couples counselling, and perhaps if they hear us talk about it, it will give them the gentle
Nudge.
gentle
Because
nudge.
you know what? Before I was like pro therapy, I was a bit like, oh, couples that do couples counselling or couples therapy are obviously like
it's already over kind of thing.
they're on the brink or they're already.
I feel like that's definitely still the stigma around going to couples counselling. I think people still very much think that way. Like if we feel that we have to go see a therapist, is it already over?
Yeah, and a lot of women actually DM me and say they would really like to go to therapy, but their partner, and they're usually messaging me about their husband, won't go.
See, that's such a shame because the way I see it is it's just a place to unpack with an unbiased opinion there that can provide tools that you don't already have to have a healthy, fulfilling marriage.
Absolutely.
Or relationship.
And I think there's two ways that I'm looking at it, and looking at their husband or their partner's like negative views or not wanting to go. Number one, it might be because they don't think there's a problem. But I think in relationships, if your partner has a problem, it should be your problem. You know, if there's something that Brad is struggling with, then it becomes something that like I want to help him with.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think if it's something that you're struggling with in your relationship, that's a problem for the relationship. That's two people.
So what what gave you the push to go to couples therapy?
Well, there were 2 times in our relationship where we were on the brink. The first time was after Jagger was born. It was probably around the 5-month mark, before we went to sleep school. I just had a lot of resentment towards him. He would leave to go to work and I was home with this baby who just wanted to sleep on me or who was crying. My life had changed. Whereas when I was pregnant, it was like, we're pregnant.
Yes.
We're having a baby.
Yes.
We're doing this. And then once the baby came and his 2 weeks or 3 weeks of,
Parental
leave, and then he was back to work. And
yeah, and then you're like, oh, you're going to work, are you?
exactly. And
you
then
get to go to work.
Yeah. And then he was resentful of me because he's like, I want to spend time with the baby. And he had like the financial pressures that
Gender role.
Yeah.
Gender role.
Very big. So there was a lot of like, I don't like you. And we couldn't talk to each other without it escalating into an argument.
So the communication was
There was no communication. Or it was extremely poor communication.
From both ends?
Both ends, absolutely, yep. Absolutely. And a lot of hurt, a lot of not being seen. Like I felt like he would come home and I would ask how his day was and he would have things to tell me, whereas my day was like,
it feels like it's the same every day.
Yeah.
And it's like, and sometimes you just feel like you don't have anything exciting to tell.
And I couldn't hear anything that he had to say in a positive light. I couldn't hear it, and neither could he.
Well, because you couldn't lift your head from the fog.
Well, not only that, but like sleep deprivation.
That's right.
So that was the first time, and I remember lying in bed next to him, and we actually had like a serious chat of like, would we be better if we weren't together anymore? Like, what is this? And we had to make a conscious effort to put effort into our relationship.
And you guys weren't intimate, were you? At this time
with Jagger, I think,
or was it with Noah?
With Noah, we took over 6 months. I would say maybe like at the 7th month mark, we started to be physically intimate again. And it was actually after she was born again that we had that lack of communication, that resentment that builds up.
So did you still have intimacy at all during that time, or was it
the
just
7 month? No, so he was actually sleeping in a different bed for months because Noah was in with me and he had to get up and go to work. And I was like, you know what? It's just easier if you sleep on the mattress in the spare bedroom and she can be with me.
So there's significant disconnect.
Oh, so much disconnect. And it wasn't until we started having real friction when it came to our parenting styles with Jagger, because as kids get older, that's when you really see the parenting style.
And how they're going to be molded into young humans.
Because we didn't talk about like, what parenting style do we want to do? That wasn't a conversation that we had before kids.
And I feel like it's an important one because Carson and I didn't have that conversation either. And I feel like people don't actually say, have you had the conversation about your parenting styles?
No.
No one does.
No, but it bit us on the fucking ass and we landed in counselling, in therapy. I brought it up. I was like, we can't continue doing this, or if we do continue doing this, it's not going to end well for anybody. And he agreed. And it was kind of like, it was this like bittersweet, because it was like sweet because he's agreeing that we need help and we're on the same page. But when you hear someone else, like the other person in there, that there's problems here, it's like a bit like, ugh.
That was like Carson and I, we just found ourselves in this, it was like the same argument every time.
Oh, yeah.
Same argument every time. And it all came down to communication. And I forget if it was he or I, that it actually might have been him that first mentioned couples counselling. Like, maybe we need to see a counsellor. And I fully agreed. But when it was both of us, like, acknowledging that there's an issue there, it was like, ooh, there's a sting.
There is a sting.
It stings.
Because it's almost like, I know there's a problem, but you have a problem with me?
Yes. Yeah. So what? Wait. So there's issues here
and
too.
then it's like
with me.
Defensiveness. It's like, what more do you want me to do? I'll just pop it on my plate, shall I? Because it's like the other thing that was happening was I wanted him to know, my life was harder. My life had changed. My life is harder than yours. You don't get it. and I wanted a gold star. But
That's
it's
our
like,
ego, babe.
yeah, it's like,
It's totally our ego.
if you get, yeah. But if you get the gold star,
what do you do with
what
it?
do you do with it? Like, yeah, okay, you've won.
My great grandmother, before she passed away, I just got married to Joel, Elijah's dad, and she wrote me this beautiful letter. And in that letter, she said to never go to sleep on an argument because no one wins an argument. It's not about winning.
I think in a lot of instances and in a lot of couples, the winning takes over.
100%.
The last word takes
and
over.
I put my hand up and say that I am guilty of that.
I want to be right.
I'm so guilty of that. And that's my ego.
Yeah.
That is because I struggle with my pride being hurt. I struggle with being wrong. I hate it. It like feels like poison in my mouth. When I say I'm wrong, it comes out. And
how does that feel?
It does not taste good. But it's purely ego.
It is purely ego. And I think the other thing is, if you see something that you want to fix in your relationship and you're like, I want different, or I want better, or whatever it is, and your partner's not willing to meet you halfway, is that person really your partner? And have you had a discussion of like, well, what do they think therapy entails? Like, what if you're against going? If your partner's against going, can they articulate why? Is there a why? Because is the why just, oh, well, society says that, you know, like if you go to therapy, then you're crazy. Because I think that's kind of what it used to be. I feel like it's gotten a lot better now.
I think if you have a partner like that, unfortunately, you need to reassess.
Yeah.
Reassess the relationship.
Because
you're growing at different rates.
Yeah.
Because you're growing and that person's actually not growing and you want to grow together.
Absolutely.
If you're not growing together, then you're growing apart.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If they go, you know what, counselling isn't something that I feel comfortable doing, what about this option? I'm okay with that. Like, give options. But why is counselling not okay? Like, is it because there isn't a problem here for you? Is it because you don't want to fix it?
Or face it.
Yeah, or face it. Or is it because you're putting your ego in front of our relationship? You're not willing to be vulnerable to fix or to help make this a better environment. Because at the end of the day, the partnerships that we have, especially when we have children, we're the role model.
100%. 100%.
So for us, when it got to that stage of like, nah, something has to change here, it was a lot to do with Jagger than
and how
our
you
marriage.
both parented.
Yeah. I'm more kind of open. Tell me about your feelings. Let's talk. Yeah, let's talk this through. Brad is kind of more authoritative.
Yes.
And after speaking to our counsellor, because we got in there, and I said to her, this was after like a couple sessions. This is a couple sessions deep.
You've peeled back some layers.
We've peeled back some layers, and we've got empathy now towards each other and why we do certain things, because I love like the way that our counsellor can like connect the dots.
Are they amazing?
Oh,
and
you
like
think
make
about it, and
you
you're like,
realize things about yourself that you hadn't thought of yet. You're
yes.
Like, that's why I behave how I behave.
Yes. And we walked right in. We sat on our chairs and we both said, we need to talk about parenting because we're doing really well as a couple, but parenting, anytime there's an escalation, anytime there's a behavioral issue, it blows the fuck up. There's always an argument. It's really nasty. So she's like, okay, we need to then look at
how you were parented.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. I was kind of sitting.
Ready.
No, I was so ready because I thought like if we're going to talk about parenting, she's just going to like be like a bullet point presentation of like when your toddler does this, this is what you can do to help.
No, she's like, let's dig up the childhood trauma.
Yeah, no, that was so deep.
Yeah,
very deep, and it all makes sense now to why I am the parent that I am and why Brad is the parent that he is. And when we actually kind of like pulled back those layers and we spoke about what we want our children to be or to have. And it was like, we want them to be happy, confident,
Feel loved, feel safe.
feel loved, feel safe, have resilience. We actually wanted the same things. We were like, yes, that's what I want. That's what I want.
But you were both just going about it a different way.
Absolutely. And it was all because of what we had received in our childhood, what we felt like we didn't receive in our childhood.
So it's all rewiring.
Oh,
it's
man.
all about rewiring.
And I don't think now that she's connected those dots for us, I feel like people are like, oh, if we don't go to a therapist, what else can we do? I feel like there are other avenues, like books you can read. Like if you're reading books
for
together
sure.
and
like talk to your
websites
friends, like your
that can
network
help.
of people.
Yeah.
But I am pro seeing a professional.
Yeah, me too.
I think if you are in the same position that Maggie and I have found ourselves in with our partners, this is your gentle nudge to perhaps look into
Absolutely.
seeing a couples therapist, because it's totally daunting when you go the first time. Like, I had knots in my stomach, a lump in my throat. I felt like I could cry the moment I sat down.
I was
like
so nervous.
Instantly walking through the door, I was like, am I just going to start crying? And we haven't even spoken yet. But once you actually sit down, it's so not what you built it up in your mind to be.
So our first session, she got us to do an activity as soon as we got there, and it blew my fucking mind. So we're sitting there and she goes, okay, I want you to tell me why you're here, and then I want the other person to repeat verbatim, so word for word, what they heard the other person say.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I think I went first. So Brad had to sit there and listen to why I thought we were there, and then he had to repeat back. And at one stage he goes, so in summary, and she goes, no, Brad, we don't summarize here. And he's like, oh, okay.
Brad.
And my ego, one tick for me. But it was because it was the most I had ever listened to him in a really long time. Because at the end she goes, because what happens is that we're not listening to hear, we're listening to respond.
Yeah.
And we
that's so
stop
true.
listening when people use trigger words of ours. So, it could be like lazy or financial or something like that. And I was like, wow, so we actually do that now when we're kind of feeling emotionally flooded and we're getting to a point, we go, okay, wait, I'm going to talk and you're going to repeat back to me what I say. And it actually really helped us because Brad can find it difficult to articulate how he's feeling. So when I say those words back to him, he actually has a moment to go, wait, no, I want to change my wording. And then I have to wait, and he changes it, and then I repeat back to him, and he goes, that's what I'm trying to say. Because a lot of our arguments were kind of, sometimes he would say things and I would be like, you just said blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it
like that.
And me, I'm like, well, you said it, so I'm taking it and
and
I'm
you
running.
take
I
it with
would
a grain
like
of salt.
run. Like I would run with it.
Yeah.
And she was like, you need to build up that benefit of the doubt with your spouse of actually trusting that when they say, I didn't mean it like that, this is what I meant. You have to have that trust.
And believe that they're being genuine.
Yeah. That was our first exercise. And we aren't actually allowed to talk about our counselling sessions with each other after 24 hours. We have to wait 24 hours. And then we're allowed to talk about it with each other.
How do you find your parenting is going now?
It's going a lot better because she was able to give us some studies that showed that the style of parenting that we want to, that we've decided that's for us, it's called being your child's emotional coach.
Yep.
So when your child has those huge emotions, she's like, don't think about yourself as a parent. Think about yourself as an emotional coach.
That's
in
great.
those moments. And she was saying how when you're overwhelmed as an adult, if you can't self-regulate, you can't teach that. to your child. So the emotional coaching style of parenting is that you have to work on yourself first, because you can't.
How are you meant to teach
Exactly.
your small human if you don't have the tools yourself?
Exactly.
To do it?
So Brad and I have been working on ourselves, and I think when you work on yourselves, it brings so much to a relationship and to a family.
Oh, so much positive. You let more positivity in.
Absolutely.
As well, I think.
And like, we're still not like 100%. Like, we don't see eye to eye every day.
I think
we
relationships
still have
take work.
struggles.
Full
Yeah.
stop. And I think it takes work until the day you die. And you're constantly learning about your partner.
Yeah.
And because you're growing together.
Absolutely. If you're not growing,
then what are you bloody doing?
What are you doing?
Okay, you know I love peach play.
Yes, you do.
I really started exploring anal play probably, I reckon it was after my pregnancy with Max. But I've also been exploring it with Carson as well. And I think it's something, especially when you're exploring it with a partner or someone who's never really done something like that before, you need to have the conversation and you need to ease them into it. And I think the bumper booty is a really good starter pack for people who are wanting to explore anal play, because you have so many different types of plugs and toys in there.
And it is a beginner.
Yeah, they're not big. Like that's a good size. Like that's not intimidating.
She's holding a butt plug, and what I like about it is that it has like a handle, so you know what's going up is not going to
the flared
go
base.
up.
Flared base
And
is so
stay
important.
up, which is something that like that's actually scared me about anal play, because you hear all the stories of like it went up and it didn't come down, whereas these actually have the handle, so when they're going up you can be really in control about how far they go up, and when you want to take it out, it can come out.
But it also comes with a douche as well. So douching is when you clean yourself out before you're participating in anal play. And I honestly think it's fabulous.
So last night we were at dinner. Obviously I'm pregnant, so I like a cheeky mocky.
Mocktail life.
Mocktail life for me. And the mocktail I chose was called Safe Sex on the Beach.
I loved that.
I thought it was fun and it was delicious. But it got me thinking, is there such thing as safe sex on the beach? Have you had sex on the beach?
I have, yeah.
Like in the sand, or were you on a beach box?
I'm not a fan. I was in the sand. I also have been finger banged on a beach box.
Wait, so
It was awful.
there sand there?
There was sand, and the guy was going hammer and tong. Like, I'm talking like, yeah, I don't know what, like, the thing is, men, if you're listening,
You don't.
porn is not
No.
educational. It's entertainment.
And we actually don't want to be finger banged.
Oh, it was like bang, like bang, bang. I can't, there was
He had
a
his
lot
little,
of
He had his
force.
little toy gun out. He had his little
Oh.
toy finger gun out.
It was, it's a lot. It happened when I was like maybe like 18.
Nah, that's giving like open house vibes when you're 16 and you're like, let's go to the bush.
Yeah,
and then
nah.
like that 16-year-old boy doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So he goes inside you hammer and tong.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Or when like they aggressively used to like rub on the outside of your pants, and it would get like a burning, like a burning sensation.
Spit it.
Oh gosh, I used to get like burn from that.
Yeah, I'd get friction burn on my clit from someone trying to wiki wah on my clitoris.
Yeah, but yeah, no, we're not finger banging, and especially when there's sand involved. And
And
it's not good.
dick in vagina or fingers in vagina or whatever you're doing with sand involved, I feel like it's just not safe.
No, I think I think the movies have made it sexy, like I'm gonna, sex on the beach. When in reality, for me, it's either like extremely sandy and you're being finger banged to the point where you can't actually feel your vag anymore, or you're gonna get thrush after because of like all of the sand being all up in there. So I'm
It doesn't
a no.
spark joy. It doesn't spark joy
But
for
I
me.
did love Safe Sex on the Beach as a name
Cocktail.
for a mocktail.
Yeah, it was very clever.
Yeah.
But sex on the beach full stop does not spark joy. And please stop finger banging.
It's not a thing.
It's not a fucking thing.
Recommendation time, bitch. No, not really. I love you.
That was so aggressive. I actually thought you were going to be really lovely because you were looking at me so lovingly, and then it was just like bang.
Like finger banging. Bang. To the point.
Tell me, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is I bought a car drink bottle extender. So it like goes in the cup holder of your car and it extends it out so that my 1 liter fat drink bottle doesn't have to just like
the big boy.
Yeah, it doesn't have to just like roll around on the floor of the car anymore. You can put it in the extender and it sits there. It's a life changer. I really enjoyed it.
Can I get one for my 2 liter? Because I've got the big.
Yeah,
I've got like the big boy.
I've got a big boy. Yours is like a
mine's a thick boy.
I think so. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
I actually really want that because Carson
extender.
always gives me shit about my huge water bottle because he's like, "Oh, precious cargo on board. You better put a seatbelt around it." And I'm like, "Okay."
I can actually see Carson's face as he says that.
I
as
get
well.
it. My recommendation is something that I've learned, and it's about apologizing because I'm learning about apologies.
Oh, the drawbridge is coming down.
So if someone ever apologizes to you, instead of saying that's okay, say thank you because it's actually not always okay, but you appreciate the apology.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I've also heard that if someone apologizes but they don't change their behavior or whatever they're apologizing for, it's not an apology, it's manipulation.
Yes. But I did love it was actually my sister that said when someone apologizes to you, say thank you.
I like that.
It's okay, and try and get yourself in that rhythm of, because sometimes it isn't okay, but you appreciate the acknowledgement.
Oof. We love an acknowledgement of self.
We do. That's my recommendation of the week.
You were warned, but thanks for listening to MA15+.
Now you can send your burning questions to hello@ma15plus.au.
We want to hear from you, so please subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to this podcast.
Maggie, did you know the longest relationship I have ever had is actually with Lovehoney?
I mean, no, but it makes sense to me.
Now, if you want to check out our spicy recommendations, please go to the show notes.
Yes, or any products that we have recommended, they will be at lovehoney.com.au/MA15PLUS. You can thank us later because you will be buzzing, you will be wet, it will be wild.
You'll just be a very, very, very happy person.
And happiness is what we're about.
And maybe you'll find a long-term relationship like me.